When family doesn't have the decency to tell you they won't be there, they aren't worth being in your life anymore. This story reminds us how easily love turns into convenience and family into silence. It's a stark reminder that having a kind and loving grandmother is a huge blessing. One of life's quietest yet most powerful forces. A force that, when betrayed, can reshape legacies with glacial calm. The quiet blessing. For 60 years, I'd cradled the belief that being a grandmother was life's quietest, most profound blessing. The scent of warm cookies clinging to Chloe's hair after baking, the weight of Liam asleep against my shoulder, the rasp of David's tired voice confiding over late-night tea, even the brittle cadence of Melissa's social strategizing. These were the sacred threads woven into the tapestry of my existence. I poured love into them like water into parched earth, believing its flow was eternal. Babysitting with a smile even when my back ached, stitching sequins onto Chloe's fairy wings until midnight, absorbing David's frustrations and Melissa's curated dramas. My presence was the constant hearthfire, warming their lives. I never fathomed that hearth could become merely convenient, its warmth taken for granted until the moment it was abruptly, cruelly extinguished. The Feast of Fools. Sunlight, thick with dust motes, streamed through the lace curtains I'd washed just yesterday. It fell across the polished mahogany table, making the crystal water glasses wink. The table itself seemed to sag under the weight of my devotion. A burnished ham, studded with cloves like tiny jewels, its glaze catching the light, a creamy potato gratin, its cheesy crust golden and inviting, emerald green beans almondine glistening with butter, a basket of fluffy rolls radiating warmth, and reigning over it all, David's triple-layer chocolate cake, dark, decadent, smelling faintly of cocoa and vanilla. Photograph albums lay open on the sideboard, spines cracked with love, pages whispering of Christmases past, graduations, Chloe's first steps captured in grainy delight. Balloons tethered to each chairback bobbed with forced cheer. 1:58 p.m. The reunion commenced at 2 o'clock. My 60th. My heart beat a syncopated rhythm against my ribs. Anticipation laced with a tremor I dismissed. Any moment. I could almost feel the slam of the car door, the rumble of David's voice calling, "Mum!" Liam's explosive entry, demanding cake before hello. Chloe's small hand shyly offering the glitter-encrusted card I knew she'd laboured over. Melissa's air kiss would land near my cheek, her eyes already cataloguing the room. She's family, I breathed, smoothing the lace tablecloth I'd ironed with meticulous care. She's part of this. 2:05 p.m. Silence. Only the grandfather clock in the hall, its tock, 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 echoing unnaturally loud in the stillness. Traffic on Main Street, I reasoned, adjusting a balloon string gone slack. Always a jam on Saturdays. 2:20 p.m., no crunch of gravel, no chime of a text. A cold prickle, like a spider's legs, traced my spine. My fingers found David's number. Ring, ring, ring. Voicemail. "Hi, you've reached David." His recorded voice, usually a comfort, now sounded jarringly jovial. "David, sweetheart," my own voice echoed, thin and tinny in the cavernous quiet. "Are you close? Everything all right?" 2:45 p.m. The ham's glaze had dulled, congealing. A translucent skin puckered the surface of the gratin. The beans looked tired. The silence wasn't just absence, it was a physical weight, pressing down, making the cheerful balloons leer like grotesque clowns. I sank onto the sofa, the springs groaning under me, then a buzz. "David!" "Mum!" His voice was tinny, distant, underneath a cacophony, a muffled, distorted announcement, raucous laughter, the unmistakable whoosh of air brakes. "Hey, listen!" "David!" Dread, cold and sharp, laced my words. "Where are you? Are you stuck? Is everyone okay?" "Yeah, Mum, sorry, just—" He stumbled, words tumbling over each other like falling bricks. "Running late, way late, something huge came up. Last minute, you know how it is, crazy." A forced chuckle scraped my ear. "We'll make it up to you, big time, promise, happy birthday." "David," my voice dropped, low and dangerous. "What came up? Where are you?" A beat of silence, then a frantic muffled whispering. Then cutting through the static, sharp as a shard of glass, Melissa's voice, clear despite David's likely attempt to cover the mic. "Just tell her we're sorry and hang up, David. They're calling our group for boarding. Boarding? The words slammed into me, solid and brutal. Mum, love you. Gotta run. Click. The dial tone was a physical shock, a metallic scream in the sudden vacuum. Boarding. It echoed in the hollow chamber of my chest. I stared at the feast, the cold ham, the stiffening gratin, the wilting beans, the pristine cake. The lovingly set chairs stood empty, sentinels to my foolishness. The love I'd nurtured, tended like a precious garden, curdled instantly, hardening into a cold, leaden weight beneath my ribs. The salt in the wound. Numbness descended, a merciful, anaesthetic fog. Mechanically, I moved. Cling film stretched tight over dishes, trapping the sense of disappointment. The sight of the chocolate cake, David's favourite, twisted my stomach. I retreated to the worn armchair, its fabric still holding the ghostly impression of Chloe's small form after countless story times. My phone lay heavy in my lap, a dormant grenade. The suspicion, cold and reptilian, uncoiled in my gut. I rarely ventured onto VerityLink, Melissa's meticulously curated digital stage. My fingers, clumsy with dread, navigated the app, scrolled past ads, past acquaintances, and stopped. There, posted 57 minutes ago. Tagged David Miller, Melissa Chen Miller, Liam Miller, Chloe Miller. Sunlight exploded from the screen. My family. Arm in arm against a backdrop of impossibly blue water and the gleaming white flank of a colossal ship. Palm fronds swayed. Melissa beamed, radiating triumph, designer sunglasses pushed high on her head, a fruity drink in hand. Hash vacation goals. David stood beside her, his smile strained, eyes avoiding the lens, looking faintly nauseous. Or was it guilt? Liam grinned broadly, brandishing an ice cream cone the size of his head, oblivious. And Chloe, my sweet, sensitive Chloe. Her smile was a fragile thing, plastered on but not reaching her eyes. She looked small, adrift, her gaze fixed somewhere beyond the frame, perhaps searching for the shore, or the grandmother who wasn't there. The caption, courtesy of Melissa, burned. Surprise! Last-minute Caribbean escape. Soaking up the sun, making priceless memories with my loves. Hash family first, hash cruise life, hash. Blessed hash, best surprise ever, hash family first. The hashtag detonated behind my eyes. Last-minute escape, while I sat vigil over rotting food and crushing silence on my 60th birthday. The cruelty wasn't just the abandonment, it was the pretense shattered by this digital braggadocio. Melissa's fingerprints were smeared all over it, her simmering resentment of my bond with David and the kids, her pathological need to be the sun around which everyone orbited, her whispered critiques I'd dismissed as insecurity. This was her masterstroke, not just exclusion, obliteration. Proof of her dominion over my son, my legacy, on my milestone day. A sound escaped me. A raw, choked gasp. Tears, hot and shameful, welled and spilled, splattering onto the screen, blurring Melissa's victorious smirk. The pain was a physical vice, crushing my lungs, making my ribs ache. This betrayal was surgical in its precision. Then, through the scalding tears, a shift. A chilling calm seeped into my veins, displacing the agony. Not peace. The glacial clarity of ice sealing over a fathomless black lake. The fog of hurt evaporated, incinerated by a white-hot ember of pure, unadulterated understanding. They had shown me, with brutal, undeniable honesty, my value, convenience, obligation, disposable. I swiped the tears away with the back of my hand. It was steady, stone steady. I rose, walked past the tableau of decay without a glance, entered my small study. The key turned smoothly in the locked drawer. Inside lay the thick, buff-coloured envelope Arthur Henderson had delivered a month prior. Last will and testament of Eleanor Jane Vance. I traced the typed letters, feeling the weight of a lifetime. The modest savings scraped together, the little house paid for with decades of typing pools and careful budgeting, the small portfolio, the pearl necklace my own mother gave me on my wedding day, meant for Chloe. I'd planned post-party revisions, perhaps a bequest to the community library. Now, the revisions wrote themselves with cold, logical precision. I picked up the phone. My voice, when Arthur answered, was smooth as Riverstone, devoid of any tremor. Arthur? Eleanor Vance, the will, We need to make changes, significant changes. Today, the reckoning. 10 days. 10 days of silence so profound it roared. No calls, no texts, not a single hollow thinking of you email. The silence wasn't just absence, it was confirmation. An indictment. My heart, that once warm hearth, was now a high-security vault, its mechanisms locked, its treasures reassigned. Then, the sound I dreaded and anticipated. The crunch of gravel under tires. A car door slammed with unnecessary force. Hesitant footsteps on the porch, then the shrill, demanding ring of the doorbell, shattering the quiet sanctuary I'd forged. I opened the door, not wide, just enough. David stood on the threshold, clutching a flimsy, garishly printed souvenir bag, looking rumpled and lobster-red from sunburn. Behind him, Melissa hovered, her expression a masterclass in manufactured contrition, lips downturned, brows slightly furrowed, eyes scanning me for weakness. Her tan looked expensive, even. Liam scuffed his sneaker against the welcome mat, bored, fiddling with a keychain shaped like a shark. Chloe hung back, half hidden behind her father, her eyes enormous pools of dread and unshed tears, the look of a child who senses seismic shifts but can't name the quake. "Mom!" David boomed, his voice strained with false heartiness. "God, we're so sorry about the confusion. You have no idea the whirlwind. Melissa's cousin, Brenda, she sprung this cruise on us. Tickets booked, non-refundable, total nightmare landing on your birthday." He waved the bag vaguely. "We brought you treasures, genuine Barbados rum cake, shells." Melissa glided forward, oozing saccharine sincerity. "Eleanor, darling," she purred, reaching out as if to touch my arm but stopping short. "We felt terrible, truly. The guilt was awful. But the Wi-Fi on the ship, practically non-existent. Sending a message was impossible, you understand?" She gave a tinkling laugh that scraped my nerves. "But we're here now. Let's put this little hiccup behind us and celebrate properly. Where's the cake?" I didn't move, didn't invite them in. I stood framed in the doorway, a barrier. My gaze swept over them, dissecting. David's eyes darted everywhere but mine, landing on the porch swing, the potted geranium, anywhere safe. Melissa's smile was brittle, her eyes calculating, assessing the damage. Liam's indifference was a physical shield. Chloe's silent, desperate plea sliced through the rest. "Please understand. Please forgive. I was powerless." The glacial clarity held me, an unyielding foundation. I saw the flimsy tissue of David's lies, the stage-managed performance in Melissa's every gesture, the breathtaking cruelty embedded in their collective 10-day silence. They hadn't felt terrible. They'd posted sunshine and smiles. They'd sipped cocktails and swam in azure pools. They'd only darkened my doorstep because the vacation fuel gauge was empty, and perhaps a whisper of societal obligation or a niggling worry about inheritance had surfaced. Impossible to get a message? My voice was low, flat, cutting through Melissa's brittle charm like a scalpel. "You managed to post pictures, multiple pictures, tagging everyone, flaunting your #family first, #best surprise ever getaway." David flinched as if struck. Melissa's smile froze, then tightened at the corners. "While I sat here," I continued, my gesture encompassing the unseen dining room, the lingering ghost of the feast, "for hours, with a birthday dinner growing cold, alone, on my 60th birthday." David swallowed, the sound audible. "Mum, please, it wasn't simple. It was complicated." "Complicated?" The word hung in the air, frigid. "No, David, it was profoundly simple. You made a choice, all of you." My gaze pinned Liam, who finally looked up, a flicker of discomfort crossing his face, then settled on Chloe, whose tears now overflowed, tracing glistening paths through her light dusting of freckles. "You chose not to be here. You chose not to extend the basic courtesy of a phone call. You chose to let me discover your priorities, scrolling through social media like a stranger." I drew a deep breath, the cool air filling my lungs, fueling my resolve. "And choices, David, especially choices that break sacred trusts, carry consequences." I turned slightly, reached to the small hall table just inside the door. My fingers closed around the thick legal envelope. I held it out, not towards Melissa's grasping gaze, but directly to David. He blinked, confused. "What's my last will and testament, David?" I stated, my voice clear and resonant in the still afternoon. "The revised version. Executed and witnessed last week. His eyes dropped. Recognition dawned, slow and horrifying. The colour drained from his sunburned face, leaving a sickly, mottled pallor. His fingers trembled violently as he took it, the cheap souvenir bag slipping from his grasp, thudding dully on the wooden porch. The envelope felt like plutonium in his hands. Revised? The word was a croak, barely audible. Yes. I held his gaze, watching the dawning terror, fear of loss, fear of guilt, fear of a future suddenly unmoored. Sitting alone that day, David, seeing your sunny smiles while I counted empty chairs, it offered unparalleled clarity, about loyalty, about respect, about the true meaning of family. My eyes shifted to Melissa, her mask finally shattering, revealing naked panic and dawning comprehension. And about precisely who deserves the blessings I've spent a lifetime accumulating. David clutched the envelope, his knuckles bone white. He swayed slightly. "Mum, you can't, this is—" "Oh, but I have, David," I said, a small, sorrowful smile touching my lips. It held no warmth for him, only the absolute finality of ice. "Consider it my ultimate birthday gift to myself, the gift of clarity, and the peace that comes with it." The impact on Melissa was visceral. Her hand flew to her throat, her eyes bulging, darting frantically between the envelope and my impassive face. The implications crashed over her, not just a missed party, but legacy, security, her envisioned future, crumbling. Her mouth opened, a silent "oh" of shock, but no sound emerged. Liam shuffled, the tension finally penetrating his adolescent bubble. "Grandma, are you like super mad?" Before the words fully settled, a blur of motion. Chloe ducked under David's arm, past Melissa's frozen form. She slammed into me, small arms locking fiercely around my waist, her face buried deep in the soft wool of my sweater. Her thin body convulsed with silent, heart-wrenching sobs. "I'm sorry, Grandma," she choked, the words muffled, thick with tears. "I wanted to call. I tried. Mummy said no. I wanted to be with you. I missed you so much." The glacial fortress around my heart fissured, only for Chloe, only for this trembling, honest soul caught in the crossfire. I enfolded her slight frame, my arms tightening protectively. My cheek rested on her sun-bleached hair. She smelled of salt water, coconut sunscreen, and the acrid tang of betrayal, but her tears soaked through my sweater, real and hot. Her embrace was an anchor in the storm. She was the sole, untainted blessing salvaged from the wreckage. I looked over Chloe's head. David stood paralyzed, the will clutched like a death warrant, his face ashen. Melissa vibrated with furious, impotent terror, her carefully constructed world visibly imploding. Liam stared, bewildered. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating, heavy with the ashes of betrayal and the cold steel of my decision. "I know you did, my darling," I whispered into Chloe's hair, my voice thick with tears I would not shed for the others. "I know." I held my granddaughter, the only one who truly saw me, the only one who seemed to instinctively grasp the quiet, immeasurable power of a grandmother's love, and the devastating, righteous force of her betrayed wrath. The thick envelope in David's hand rustled faintly in the breeze, a stark legal tombstone marking the grave of the family he had chosen to discard. The silence now belonged solely to me. And within its profound depths resonated the tear-jerking clarity of a love shattered, a future rewritten, and the quiet, enduring blessing of one pure heart still beating against mine. The hearth fire still burned, but its warmth was now reserved fiercely and solely for the child who crossed the line to embrace me.
The frayed edges of silence. The silence after Chloe's choked apology wasn't just absence of sound. It was a physical entity, thick and charged, pressing down on the sun-dappled porch. I held Chloe tighter, her small frame shuddering against mine, her tears soaking a warm patch through my sweater. The scent of her, salt, sunscreen, and the faint artificial strawberry of her shampoo, was a cruel counterpoint to the cold fury radiating from Melissa and the stunned horror emanating from David. Liam shuffled his feet again, the scrape of his sneaker on the worn wood unnaturally loud. He looked from his weeping sister to his pale father, then to Melissa's rigid, furious posture, his adolescent confusion deepening into something akin to fear. David was the first to break. His hand, still clutching the buff-coloured envelope like a poisonous artifact, trembled violently. His knuckles were bloodless. "Mom," he rasped, the words scraping his throat raw. This is an overreaction, a terrible misunderstanding. We explained." His voice faltered, dying under the weight of my unwavering gaze. "Did you—" My voice was calm, almost detached, a stark contrast to the tempest swirling around us. "Did you explain why Melissa's cousin Brenda, whom I've met precisely twice at large gatherings, would spontaneously book a non-refundable Caribbean cruise for your entire family, coincidentally timed for my milestone birthday? Did you explain why, knowing full well you were boarding," I emphasized the word, watching him flinch, "you couldn't send a single text?" "Mum, change of plans, so sorry, we'll explain later." Would that truly have been impossible? My eyes shifted to Melissa. Or was the plan always to simply vanish and let me figure it out? Melissa found her voice, a shrill, venomous thing that shattered the fragile tension. "How dare you!" She took a step forward, her expensive sandal clicking on the porch. Her carefully constructed contrition was gone, replaced by naked rage. "You have no idea the pressure we're under. David's promotion hanging by a thread, the kids needing a break. Brenda offered us an escape, a chance to reconnect as a family unit without outside interference." Her eyes, blazing with fury, locked onto mine. "And now you pull this vindictive, petty stunt, threatening your own son with disinheritance over a missed party?" "It was never about the party, Melissa," I said, my voice cutting through her tirade like ice. "It was about the deliberate cruelty, the utter lack of respect, the conscious choice to exclude me, lie to me, and then flaunt your exclusion in my face. You orchestrated this. You saw an opportunity to sever a bond you've always resented, and you took it, using my birthday as the perfect blade." I looked back at David, his face a mask of anguish. "And you let her. You chose her malice over your mother's love. That, David, is what this envelope represents, not pettiness, consequences." David made a strangled sound. "Mum, please, don't do this. Don't cut us out. Don't cut the kids out." His gaze darted desperately to Chloe, still clinging to me. "Think of Liam. Think of Chloe." "I am thinking of Chloe," I said softly, stroking her hair. Chloe whimpered, burrowing deeper. "I'm thinking of the granddaughter who wanted to call me, who wanted to be here, who was told no." I levelled my gaze at Melissa. "Who was silenced." Melissa recoiled as if struck. "That's a lie! I never—" "Chloe just told me," I interrupted, my voice quiet but implacable. "In front of all of us, she tried. You stopped her." The accusation hung in the air, undeniable. David looked at Melissa, a flicker of something new, betrayal, disgust, crossing his ravaged face. Liam finally spoke, his voice uncharacteristically small. "Dad, what's going on? What's in the envelope? Is Grandma dying?" The innocent, terrifying question hung in the air. David closed his eyes briefly, a wave of pain washing over him. "No, son, no, she's not." He couldn't finish. He looked utterly broken, the envelope a crushing weight in his hand. Melissa rallied, her voice dripping with icy contempt. "This is ridiculous. You're emotionally blackmailing your own family. Do you really think a piece of paper changes anything? David is your son. Those are your grandchildren. You can't just throw that away." "I didn't throw it away, Melissa," I said, my voice finally gaining an edge of steel. "You did. David did. When you decided I wasn't worth basic human decency, when you treated 60 years of love as disposable." I looked directly at David. "The will isn't blackmail, it's a reflection of reality. It states clearly that my estate, built over a lifetime of work and careful saving, the house, the savings, the investments, my mother's pearls, will now go entirely to charities dedicated to supporting isolated seniors and children's literacy programs, the Eleanor Vance Trust. Arthur Henderson has the details. I saw the names register, the charities I'd mentioned wanting to support someday. There are specific, irrevocable trusts established for Liam and Chloe's education, administered by an independent trustee, accessible only for tuition and related expenses. Nothing else, nothing for you, nothing for Melissa. The house will be sold upon my passing, the proceeds funding the trust. The financial blow landed with physical force. David swayed, bracing a hand against the porch railing. Melissa's face contorted, not just with anger now, but with sheer, unadulterated panic. The loss of anticipated security, of control, was written plainly across her features. "You vindictive old witch," she spat, the mask fully gone. "You'll die alone in this house, bitter and forgotten." "Perhaps," I acknowledged calmly, tightening my hold on Chloe. "But I'll die with my self-respect intact, and knowing that what I built will help others who understand the value of kindness, unlike those who took it for granted." David finally found his voice a raw whisper. "Mum, please don't do this to us, to me. I'm sorry, truly sorry. We were wrong, horribly wrong." Tears welled in his bloodshot eyes. "Just give us a chance to fix this." The plea, so long awaited, landed on frozen ground. The time for apologies was before the pictures were posted, before the 10 days of silence. The hurt was too deep, the betrayal too complete. The clarity forged in the hours of waiting, staring at empty chairs, was unshakable. "Your apology comes 10 days too late, David," I said, my voice heavy with finality. "And it changes nothing. The will stands. My decision stands." I looked down at Chloe, her sobs subsiding into hiccuping breaths. "Now, I suggest you take your family home. Chloe is upset. She needs her parents." The words tasted like ash, her parents, the people who had caused this pain. Melissa snatched the flimsy souvenir bag off the porch floor. "Come on, David," she snapped, her voice brittle. "We're leaving. This is pointless." She grabbed Liam's arm, pulling him towards the car. "Liam, now!" David didn't move immediately. He stared at me, a world of pain and regret in his eyes, mixed with a dawning, horrified understanding of the irrevocable chasm that now lay between us. He looked at Chloe, still wrapped around me. "Chloe," he said hoarsely, "come on, sweetheart, we have to go." Chloe's arms tightened around me convulsively. "No," she whispered, muffled against my sweater. "I want to stay with Grandma." My heart cracked wider. "Oh, my darling girl," I murmured, kissing the top of her head. "You have to go with your mum and dad now." The words were agony. "But you listen to me, you call me, any time, day or night, you understand? Grandma's phone is always on for you." I gently pried her arms loose, kneeling slightly to look into her tear-streaked face. I cupped her cheek. "I love you, Chloe, always. Nothing and no one changes that. Remember that." She nodded, fresh tears spilling over. "I love you too, Grandma," she choked out. David stepped forward, his hand hovering near her shoulder. "Come on, Chloe Bug!" His voice was thick. Reluctantly, she let him guide her away from me. She looked back once, her eyes huge and desolate, before David steered her towards the car, where Melissa was already slamming the passenger door, and Liam sat slumped in the back, staring blankly ahead. David paused at the driver's side door, the will envelope still clutched in his hand like a guilty verdict. He looked back at me, standing alone on the porch. The silence stretched again, filled with the engine's sudden roar and the crunch of gravel as he reversed. The car pulled away, carrying my son, his wife, my grandson, and my shattered granddaughter away from the house that was no longer their inheritance, away from the woman who was no longer their convenience. I watched the dust settle on the empty driveway. The silence rushed back in, deeper now, profound. It wasn't just the absence of them, it was the absence of the future I'd envisioned. The family gatherings, the Christmases, the graduations, the shared milestones, all gone, incinerated in the fire of their betrayal. But within the hollow ache, the glacial clarity remained, and something else, fragile but fierce, the echo of Chloe's arms around me, her whispered apology, her love. That quiet blessing hadn't been extinguished. It was damaged, frayed at the edges, but it still glowed. For her. Only for her. I turned and walked back into the quiet house. The scent of the long, cleared feast was finally gone. I walked past the study, past the locked drawer. I didn't need to look at the will. Its terms were etched in my mind, a testament to the day love died and clarity was born. I went instead to my bedroom, to the small velvet-lined box on my dresser. Inside lay a single strand of creamy pearls. my mother's, given to me on my wedding day, destined for Chloe. I lifted them out, cool and heavy in my palm. The quiet blessing, not gone, redirected, protected. A deep breath filled my lungs. The silence wasn't oppressive anymore. It was mine. It was the space where I would rebuild, not around the emptiness they left, but around the enduring love for the granddaughter who crossed the line to hold me. And the first step in that rebuilding began with a phone call. Not to Arthur about the will, but to Arthur about something else entirely. Something involving trusts, guardianship clauses, and the fierce, unwavering protection of a quiet blessing named Chloe. The game wasn't over. It had just entered a new, decisive phase.